Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here for our regular council meeting for Wednesday, November the 13th. I'm just looking for the thumbs up from our IT. There we go. Want to make sure that our live stream is working, so welcome to anyone joining us online. I'd like to advise everyone that this meeting is being audio and video recorded and live streamed on the Town of Innisfil's YouTube channel and shall form part of the record, which will be retained according to the town's retention bylaw. And if you'd like more information about that bylaw, you can get it from the clerk's office. I'd like to take a moment to thank everybody for attending tonight and ask you if you do have your cell phone with you, if you could put it on silent or vibrate so that it won't interrupt us, that would be very much appreciated. Number 2 on the agenda is our I forgot to ask Councillor Constantine if she would please deliver our land acknowledgements.
The town of Innisfil acknowledges that Innisfil is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich indigenous histories. The town also acknowledges that this land is the traditional territories of the first people of Turtle Island. It is shared between the Anishinaabe people of Beausoleil First Nation, Chippewa of Rama First Nation, and Chippewa of Georgina Island First Nation, and we thank them for generations of stewardship. This meeting place is still the home to many indigenous people, and as settlers, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. The town acknowledges the forced sacrifices that are the foundation of Canadian society today. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nation, Métis, and Inuits.
Thank you very much, Councillor Constantine. Item 2 on the agenda is open forum, and we have had no one sign up for open forum this evening. So we'll go right to item 3, which is the approval of tonight's agenda. We did have one addition to tonight's agenda that will be item C2. Mr. Sugden is here, and he'll speak to us at the appropriate time. And I would ask that we have a mover and a seconder, please, to approve the agenda as amended. And that's Councillor Waters and Councillor Drodge. All those in favor? That is carried. Next is item 4, which is disclosures of interest. Are there any conflicts or pecuniary interest on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, if one becomes apparent to you through the evening, please let us know at that time. And next is item 5, which is presentations and petitions. So the first item on tonight's agenda is Amanda Fellows, the Program Manager for Community Development from CFS Counseling and Wellbeing. Please, whenever you're ready, welcome Amanda, and thank you for being here with us this evening.
Hello, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Dolan and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Amanda Fellows, and I serve as the Manager of Community Programs at CFS Counseling and Wellbeing, or as you may have previously known us as, Catholic Family Services of Simcoe County. This year marks a significant milestone for our organization as we celebrate 45 years of service in Simcoe County. We are widely recognized for our walk-in counseling clinics and our commitment to providing mental health services throughout the county. Over the years, we've expanded our offerings to include services for transitional aged youth, social integration supports for newcomers, advocacy against ageism, programming for older adults, and a variety of mental health groups and workshops. Our organization has doubled in size since 2019. Our organizational growth is in part because we have great staff and an innovative leadership team, but also because of the key partnerships we have developed over the years. For these reasons, through our yearly report to the community, we honor our staff's achievements with the Hopeful Heart Awards, and additionally, we recognize one of our key partners with the Collaboration Award. It has been my privilege to present this award over the last 5 years to esteemed partners such as Waypoint, Wendat, Contact Community Services, and the Gilbert Centre. The work we do is both challenging and impactful, and I'm grateful every day to collaborate with such remarkable partners who make our mission more manageable. This year, I'm thrilled to share that the Collaboration Award is being presented to the Innisfil Idea Lab and Library. One of my favorite definitions of collaboration describes it as a partnership where participants combine their efforts, resources, and expertise to achieve an outcome that exceeds what any individual could accomplish alone. This definition perfectly encapsulates the ongoing relationship between the library and CFS. Our partnership with the library has evolved significantly over the years, and in the past year, we have truly turned a new page in our relationship. They consistently find creative solutions to accommodate our needs and many others across the sector, transforming spaces as required and generously offering free space for our youth walk-in clinics, our Grand Pals program, and most recently, conversation circles for newcomers. Their deep commitment to the Innisfil community and seeing consistent support provided to Innisfil residents is ever glaring across the social service sector. This summer, our collaboration went beyond merely sharing physical spaces. It also enhanced our overall capabilities. When we needed a partner for outreach, this summer, they quickly assigned a staff member to support this work through July and August, and the team connected with over 140 youth across Innisfil, which is truly incredible. The enthusiasm that the library team brings to their work is invigorating and often reignites my own passion. I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to their board, their CEO, Aaron, and the entire team for their steadfast support and commitment to the Innisfil community. Big thanks to them for being such incredible partners and truly stellar collaborators. So I think I'm going to present this award to Rob. Am I not? Ooh, going out with a bang.
Thank you so much.
Is this for you?
All right. Thank you so much.
Oh, forget the photo.
Do you want the rest of the board? Barb, Sue, would you the rest of the board? Some of the board members that are with us today?
Can we get one with all the board staff, or the library staff too, please?
Much to Aaron's dismay.
You have to do what I say when I'm sitting in this chair.
If you just give me a minute. A good evening to you, Your Worship, Deputy Mayor, Council, staff, along with our good friends from RVH tonight. Board Chair Ann Smith asked me to speak for her on behalf of the Innisfil Public Library tonight, as she sends her regrets. Although I don't know if I'd really regret touring Europe right now myself, but seriously though, I'd like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Amanda and CFS for the incredible work that they do for us in Innisfil and for recognizing our library as a valuable community partner. Programs like these are just a glimpse into the wide range of services, programs, and events offered at our library and Idea Lab. I would like to take a moment to also recognize some of the key staff who help make these programs to life. Amy Eastwood, our Manager of Children and Youth Services, Mariana Monroe, our Community Services Coordinator, and Max Lupo, who unfortunately is working tonight, our Community Librarian. Their passion and commitment truly make a real difference each and every day. We're also grateful for the ongoing support from Council, along with our partners at the Town of Innisfil and the Building Safer Communities Fund, whose support enables us to expand and strengthen these important partnership programs. We look forward to continuing this and other partnerships as we're called upon to make even greater impacts in our community. I know that you have a very busy evening tonight, including receiving the budget, so I think I'll wrap it up here. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Rob. That was very, very... we should have had two members of the council table here down in that photo too, Councillor Saunders and Councillor Richardson, that also sit on the library board. But I would ask if you could please move and second the recommendation that's on the table, please. Thank you very much. Moved by Councillor Richardson, seconded by Councillor Saunders. Questions or comments? Seeing none, I just want to thank also CFS for this. When I heard the other recipients, it made me very proud that our library was on there, and I can't agree more. The library ignites the passion in me every day, and we're just so proud of everything they do. And so thank you, and of course, thank you to our wonderful Innisfil Idea Lab and Library. Thank you. All in favor of the recommendation? That is carried with thanks. Thank you very much. Our next presentation is the Royal Victoria Regional Health Center. So I believe that would be Gail Hunt who is be starting that presentation for us. Thank you, Gail.
Thank you. And I know it's budget night, so we'll be as quick and expedient as possible. I'm very thankful that I was put on the agenda before the budget, so thank you so much for that. But thank you for having us this evening to provide an update on our capital expansion plans. We appreciate you giving us time to show you the latest iteration of our plans to build a regional health system serving patients from across Simcoe and Muskoka. So as we look at the population growth in conjunction with the increasing needs of our patients, both present and future, it is evident we need to make progress on moving this vital project forward. The focus of our presentation tonight will be to provide an update on the current development plan, the status of the capital planning process, and how you can support us in obtaining approvals to meet increasingly urgent needs. So I think we are all aware, let's see if I can get this working. Turn it around. Oh, isn't that brilliant? Facing the right way. I can run a tight ship at the hospital. Don't be afraid now after that. I just can't work a remote. I think we're all aware that our provincial government is experiencing mounting fiscal pressures and limited resources. This is not a simple time for the Ministry of Health or for hospitals who are desperate to support the needs of the communities that we serve. Our province continues to see the number of major projects grow due to aging infrastructure, population growth, and the rising complexity of health challenges that people face. But the resources to fund these projects are not growing at a comparable level to the demand for the services. Given the space constraints and increasing needs we're experiencing, RVH could not risk our capital expansion plans being delayed further due to financial concerns. And when I say our plans, I mean all of us. To serve the residents of South Simcoe and throughout the region, we all have a vested interest in moving forward to ensure the care we need is available close to home. Therefore, considering the province's fiscal pressures and the realities of the competitive construction market, in which costs are increasing in the span of months, not years, we have taken a proactive approach. To assist in RVH plans proceeding, we have developed a cost-efficient rephase plan that prioritizes urgent needs, meeting our growing population demands, and aligns with our clinical priority plan to grow existing and add new programs. In September of 2024, our Board of Directors approved a rephase plan which was presented to the Ministry of Health. The rephase plan focuses on the next 10 years as shown on the slide. The rephase plans will focus on building a full health hub in Innisfil over the next 5 to 8 years, and this will include an urgent care center, a day surgery capacity, a diagnostic center with medical imaging and lab, outpatient clinics, and 180 new post-acute transitional beds. Having these services available in Innisfil will help alleviate some of the pressures on the Barrie campus services and create more capacity in the system as a whole. Given the severe space constraints RVH already experiences to date, the rephase plan focuses on expansion of the existing Barrie campus over the next 3 to 6 years, so you'll see there is an overlap between the two. Through additions and redevelopment of the existing health center, we are prioritizing expansion of regional and acute care programs such as cardiac, cancer, dialysis, neonatal intensive care unit, maternal and child, outpatient clinics, and the Rotary Place. The work of the Barrie site can begin sooner as it's being really done in pieces according to the program based. Beyond the 10 years, we continue planning for the continued expansion of the Barrie campus to include inpatient units, operating rooms, emergency and critical care. At the Innisfil campus, we are still developing a full-service hospital beyond the 10 years. It's important we remember that one cannot proceed without the other. Both campuses will work together to relieve mounting pressures across our region, ensuring we can continue supporting our hospital partners and enhancing access to care for our rapidly growing communities. So as a reminder of the capital planning process, those simple steps you see up there, we are currently poised at the cusp of what we hope will be an approval at stage 1.2, which has been with the ministry since March 2022 in the very near future. By submitting a rephased proposal with significant cost savings, it should be more appealing to decision makers who must balance fiscal pressures with an awareness that healthcare projects need to proceed based on drastically increasing demand. Regardless of not having a stage 1.2 approval yet, we are moving forward with work on stage 1.3, the functional program planning. This is a stage where we define and finalize the scope of the project in terms of programs and services being proposed. For example, the functional program answers questions such as what staffing levels will be needed, how much space will be required, what does that space look like. We want to get ahead of the curve when it comes to submitting our stage 1.3 proposal, hopefully in the first half of 2025. So work is proceeding regardless of the stage 1.2 status. So my objective being here tonight is to generate interest in helping RVH advance our capital expansion plans. We can make progress more effectively if we have some critical mass behind our plans. We need people who understand our plan and realize the necessity of it becoming a reality to support us by advocating for its advancement. This can be done through conversations with letters of support to elected officials, community members, and decision makers who also have a vested interest in the growing healthcare needs of our region being met in the short and long-term future. On this slide and the next, we have provided some information which may be useful in helping understand the critical issues and rationale behind RVH's capital expansions plans. We want you to be equipped with essential information should you find yourself with an opportunity to have a discussion with difference makers. And if you do find yourself presented with that opportunity, we are always happy to assist providing more details. And some of those messages you can take with you. They're in your package for your key message summaries that hopefully to help you with conversations. So I think we all realize the importance of building a regional healthcare system to address the needs of these growing and diversifying communities. The town of Innisfil Council has been a valued supporter of this cause, and you continue to play a role in making a difference for residents to receive the care they need close to home. And I'll be happy to answer some questions as we keep pushing for innovative solutions to enhance patient care in our region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hunt. Thank you for being here this evening. Questions and comments from members of council? I wonder if they're going to be this quiet when we start doing budget tonight later. I don't know.
It might be an early evening for you.
So a couple of questions. So if somebody didn't know a lot about the hospital, but did feel like they were going to have discussions with decision makers and wanted to, should they call someone here at the town? Should they call you? Like how would they get that information?
So we will be relaunching our website that focuses on our capital expansion plan and the rephasing, and we'll have some directions on there for who to contact, and some of the messaging will be there as well to help people. But people are always free to contact us at the hospital. There'll be directional language there for people to find the right person to talk to and get the information they need. How we see capital projects proceeding is really those communities that are the most vested interest in advocating and demonstrating that this is a priority. So
right.
Outside of the hospital officials themselves saying it's a priority, it's important for government officials to hear it from the communities that these hospitals will impact. That is a priority for them as well.
Thank you. The campaign that is out in the community working so hard to get donations, and now something about the wild, and I've forgotten what it is.
Keep Life Wild?
Keep Life Wild, thank you. Keep Life Wild campaign. I know that our community is very, very engaged in that campaign, and they're out spreading the word all of the time, and we do have a desk over at the Rizzardo Health and Wellness Center there, so people can go there and get more information as well. We certainly do our part for council and staff advocating to the province whenever we get the opportunity, and we in August we're in Ottawa and met with the parliamentary assistant of MOH but also have the opportunity to get down to Queen's Park every once in a while and shout from the rafters. And we'll continue doing that because we know every other community is doing it as well. So if we really want this to happen, if we want to make this reality, we have to shout louder than everyone else.
Yes, exactly.
The one thing that is a bit frustrating and I think creates expectations in the public that, you know, it's a done deal is the Facebook ad that MOH put on Facebook saying, we're building a hospital in Innisfil. So we did show that to the parliamentary assistant and suggest that, well, if you say you're going to do it, you actually have to do it. So
Yes.
I don't want them to take it down. I don't want them to change it. I just want them to make it reality.
Yes, agreed. That was a surprise to the hospital itself as well, and we showed that ad, and it was a surprise to their health capital branch. So an unfortunate reflection of marketing and planning don't speak to each other within the ministry, I think. So, but I think it's an opportunity to demonstrate how important it is. So yeah, we appreciate all the efforts from Mayor and Council to keep that message strong. It is about a consistency and spreading and not letting it go that will help us get over the finish line here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and absolutely, and it's also about, you know, staying on message and agreeing, because I know in other municipalities and regions where they've not maybe had different opinions of where the hospital should be located, or if not everybody's together, then those ones obviously go to the end of the bottom of the pile. So we want to make sure that ours stays at the top.
Yes.
Thank you
definitely.
again for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thank you.
Mover and a seconder, please, for the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Zanella and seconded by Councillor Waters. All those in favor? That is carried. Thanks again, and if you want to sneak out before budget, we'll absolutely understand. Right, thank you. And next we have a presentation 6.1. Evan I'm sure I'm saying this wrong, Sugden. Evan, whenever you're ready, you want to speak to the notice of intention to designate on 3525 25th Side Road.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council and staff. My name is Evan Sugden. I'm a heritage planner and associate leading the heritage practice at the Big Leary Group. Before you tonight representing my clients, these two gentlemen at the back, who are the owners of 3523 3rd Side Road in Innisfil. Our goal here was to essentially do a mild peer review of the heritage evaluation report that staff had undertaken. My position is not to tear apart the staff research. My position is to take as objective as an approach as possible to understanding the criteria of OREG 906. It's my belief that we should be conserving Ontario's best examples of our history, Innisfil's best examples, and not diluting it with subpar resources. And there's a few glaring holes in the research that I believe lead me to think that this is not a property worth considering for designation. And tonight is sort of the opportunity for council to make a new decision. And I just wanted to take a few minutes to go through the very obvious ones that we've pointed out. You all have my package, so you've probably seen the enhanced evaluation, but essentially there's 9 criteria under OREG 906. You need to meet 2 of them. Meeting 2 of them does not automatically constitute a designation. It allows you to consider a designation. And we don't believe that the requisite criteria have been met. So the 3 criteria that this staff evaluation report says have been met are 3. One of them is that the house on site, there's a stone house, they're calling it the guest house. All of the other structures on site are not part of the value that staff have attributed. They are saying in the report that this is a colonial Gothic house. As a representative example. That's one of the criteria. To me, this is the only one out of all of the 3 that is objectively just inaccurate. Gothic houses are very obvious. They have very obvious features, steeply peaked roofs, sense of verticality, decorative ornamentation like verge boarding, barge boarding. Some people call it gingerbreading. Usually have a peaked or rounded window arches. They usually have rosettes or they have other decorative features. This house has none of that. This has a symmetrical 3-bay facade with a hipped roof. Sorry, a gabled roof, side gabled roof. So it doesn't represent any of the standard features you would see in a Gothic home. They're saying colonial Gothic, which is sort of a version of the Gothic revival time period. That's the first one. So right away, that didn't meet the criteria, in my opinion. The second one was related to whether it has artistic or merit for its craftsmanship. The relationship here is simply two things, that there's stone, that it's a stone house, and that there's a walkout basement. So the walkout basement is a result of topography on site, and the construction of that house followed the situation and where it was placed. This is not, in my opinion, a description of something that is artistic in nature or demonstrating as unique or exceptional craftsmanship. This is simply what the builder chose to do in this location. And the other thing is stone. So this is a fieldstone house. For this time period, fieldstone houses are not uncommon, and what I would define as something that's showcasing artistic merit are a few really specific things that I've noted in my evaluation. So things like intricate stone carvings, floral motifs, sculptural elements around the windows and doors, anything that would showcase an artisan's skill. This is simply fieldstone, and there are a lot of fieldstone houses in Ontario. In my opinion, it doesn't meet the second criteria. And at the very least, it's not a definitive meet of that criteria, and we shouldn't be on the fence. We should be fundamentally in agreement on that. The last thing is the association with the guest family. So there's two issues that I see with that criteria having been met. So the first one, and you'll notice I've included a little bit more of a detailed chain of title. We're taking the ownership all the way back to Crown. The one thing, and this is something we agree with staff on, is that the ownership of when James Guest came into care of this house is unclear. So it says he was working on the farm for his uncle at a certain point in time, and then he took it over. What's unclear in the record is exactly when he took over that. He does eventually appear in the record, that's for certain. He's on the maps, that's corroborated in both the online records and with the mapping. What's unclear is when he actually took it over. And the other thing that's unclear about it is when that house was built. So the staff do a good job of explaining the Guest family as a farming family in Innisfil. And they talk about their experience in the log house that was on site prior to the stone house, and go into some depth on that. The family was born there, the children were born there, they farmed it in the log house. That log house is gone, and with it, to me, the majority of what would have been associated with that Guest family ownership. In fact, the other piece that's interesting is that the only source referencing the age of the house is the Innisfil Historical Review from 1969. This is a single source, and it's not corroborated with the mapping or MPAC records or anything else that would allow us to pinpoint the date together with multiple sources. So the earliest map we see with houses on it, I believe is 1877. I can double check that date, but there's houses that are shown on neighboring properties. Those maps didn't often just choose which houses to draw. They chose the houses that were there because there weren't that many houses. You don't see the house appear on any mapping until 1928 on a topographic map. And then there was a MPAC property report that we received, and it says the house was built in 1900. So there's a little bit of discrepancy about when the dates the houses were at, what the house was actually constructed. And that leads me to the next point, which is the house may not actually be associated with the Guest family. If it's actually constructed at that later date. We do know that the mapping and the MPAC data and the online records corroborate a house that's not much, but later than what staff are suggesting its date of construction, which means that it's not constructed by or for James Guest. The subsequent owner or its receivership, it seems as if James Guest or the subsequent owner went into mortgage default. And then the longest standing owner was actually a receivership company who may have built the house in order to increase the value of this land for resale. What I'm getting at with this point is the James Guest may have owned the property when the stone house was built, but the records aren't corroborated with the mapping and the online records. So there's confusion and there's uncertainty, and I think that value is overstated as per that connection. And the last part is, even if the house was built for James Guest or by James Guest. The significance of the Guest family, and I'm not saying the Guest family is not a wonderful farming family of Innisfil, but they were a farming family in Innisfil, and that is how most of Southern Ontario was settled. So there's nothing else associated with them creating a community or communities growing out from them or any other significance other than that they were a older farming family and not the earliest of the settlers in the area. They're one of an old farming family that have owned the property for approximately 30 plus years. So I think personally that the association with the Guest family is a little overstated, even if the house was built by and for them. And at the end of the day, there's too many uncertainties with more than 2 of the criteria that have been checked. And accordingly, I don't think we've met the requisite and certainly not definitively met 2 of the 9. And so our request of council is that you withdraw the notice of designation and remove the property from the Heritage Register. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sugden. Questions or comments from members of council? Council or Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm grateful that other members of the Heritage Committee are not here tonight because I don't think they'd be very quiet. They'd be very vocal in regards to what you're presenting here. There's a lot of things that you're challenging when it comes to the historical records, vagaries of sort. I don't believe this is a black and white issue. I understand the reasoning behind the objection and the other factors that are coming into play, but it's not a matter of completely wiping everything off the map or saving everything. I'm appealing to the council to go forward with this motion tonight, because once we do, there is the ability to appeal for rights for the designation of bylaw, where you understand the heritage designation and description of the heritage features could be scoped. So during that conversation, we could have a situation where the heritage value of the property is saved and the rest of the property can be demolished as required. That's a process we're looking to go into. As well, after speaking to planning, I understand that this is outside the OPA and there's been no request to make any amendments to allow for any building on the property nor any plans being brought forward. So at this moment in time, personally, I think this is viable to take it to the OLT and have the negotiations so that it's not a simple one or done. This is something we can move forward with and find a middle ground that everyone is happy with.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Mr. Sudgen, did you have any reply to that comment or?
Through the mayor, thank you, Mr. Fowler. It is a valid point, and certainly that's an option. Having just settled with Innisfil on another matter recently, a very similar circumstance, actually. So it is an option available to the owners. Of course, what we're trying to demonstrate is that in order to say that this is a significant property to the city, it should be definitive. It shouldn't have this kind of gray area. I'm not here to rationalize the destruction of a resource. What we're trying to do is take an objective approach to how those criteria have been met. And in my opinion, it hasn't fundamentally or definitively satisfied at least 2. There's discussion and there's gray area and there's a little bit of overstated facts. And I think clearly the first one, the Gothic, colonial Gothic style, just doesn't fit the bill. And so we're really coming down to an argument on association and artistic merit.
Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Thank you. I'm going to read something. We did some research. So the term colonial Gothic is occasionally applied to vernacular houses built by settlers who were influenced by Gothic style but adapted it to local materials, needs, and building traditions. These houses might feature gable roofs and some decorative detailing like most modest barge boards, but lack ornate, formal Gothic detailing found in true Gothic rival buildings. Gothic homes tend to be simpler, more symmetrical, and closer to Georgian or Loyalist architecture. Are you telling me this doesn't apply to the guest house, in your opinion?
Through the mayor, I don't believe, I'm not sure which resource you have found, but the textbooks that I've had to use in front of the OLT as an expert witness state a series of stylistic features associated with the Gothic revival time period, which includes colonial Gothic homes. And although they are a little bit more subdued in its style, they still feature the big commonality, which is a peak of some kind, steeply peaked dormers, steeply peaked roofs, anything that creates a sense of verticality, and this doesn't feature that. It's a single-story house.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Sugden? Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation. Could I please have a mover and a seconder to accept the delegation? That would be Deputy Mayor Fowler and Councillor Constantine. All those in favor? That is carried. And just so you understand the process, so we have item C2 later on in the agenda, and we use a consent agenda here. So if it's not pulled, chances are that, well, it will be confirmed at the end of the meeting. If it is pulled, then there'll be further discussion on that, just to give you a sense of where we're going to be. No, there won't be at that point. It'll be council's debate at that point. If council had any questions, now would be the time. So seeing none, thank you so much. And we'll get to that item in the not too distant future. Well, after our budget discussion, but hopefully not to the distant future.
Thank you very much.
And you also have the opportunity to watch it online later if that's something that you'd like to do as well. It's totally up to you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Have a nice night.
Thank you. Did I call the vote? I don't think I did. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So now we'll go to delegations, and we're going to have item 6.1, which is financial services. I'm going to ask CAO Gershow if he would please open the discussion.
Thank you very much, Mayor Dolan, and good evening, members of council. I'm going to make a few brief remarks before turning things over to Mike and Audrey for the main presentation. And you've heard me say before that approving a budget is one of the most important decisions council makes. And so I went back to my notes from 2 years ago when we last introduced a budget to you. And I'd like to reiterate a few points from then because they're still valid, but build on them further. I think it's fair to say that any budget is a statement about council's priorities, and I think it really fundamentally does determine the resources available to the administration to carry out council's direction. We know as staff that we have a duty to respect the taxpayers in the town of Innisfil, who work hard for their money and expect their town to spend their money wisely. So we do take that duty very seriously. I also believe we have a duty to invest in this community, to provide the services and infrastructure that our families and businesses expect, and to ensure that we're prepared to meet the needs of the future, especially since we're such a fast-growing community. Please keep in mind that about half of every dollar we collect in taxes is actually going to other organizations other than the town. So that includes the South Simcoe Police Service and the County of Simcoe, who each develop their own budgets that we have to incorporate. And I'd like to highlight that in some cases, those organizations have not yet finalized their budgets for 2025. So we've had to rely on some assumptions. And it turns out, in reality, it turns out that those budgets are different from our assumptions. We'll have to make some adjustments. So for example, that applies to the South Simcoe Police, who have not yet finalized their budget with their board. So I think we are going to have a challenging conversation this year. There are certainly significant pressures on the town, both from external sources and internally. And I think what I want to really highlight for you is that what we do here at the town of Innisfil is fundamentally a people business. Everything we do, from plowing roads to fighting fires to teaching skating lessons, requires people to deliver those services. And I think we need to work hard to keep the people we have here in the town today, working for the town, and to attract the staff we need in the future. And so you'll recall that council has previously approved things like collective agreements and compensation changes to help make sure that that's the case. And this budget factors in those prior decisions. I think as our community grows, we do need to be adding staff simply to maintain existing service levels. So to give you an illustration, if you go back to the 2021 census and you look at the building permits that have been issued since then, and you make some assumptions about how many people live in each house that gets built in Innisfil, we've added thousands more people since 2021, and hundreds of kids, for example. So that means more Uber rides to pay for, more roads to plow, more calls to take, and more summer camps to run. And we've actually done some analysis to see how do we compare to other municipalities in terms of our staffing levels. And it turns out we're kind of in the middle of the pack. But what's also interesting is if you look at that per capita staffing level and look at how that staffing number should change as your population grows, it suggests that we should be adding about 7 FTEs per year to maintain that existing strength in the town. And the reality is we have not always done that in recent years. During the pandemic, for example, in 2020, there were 0 FTEs added through the budget, and in 2021, it was only 3. So we've also given a lot of thought to Council's new strategic plan. We've taken that very seriously, as well as the master plans that have come before you. And we've tried to direct investments to those priority projects as well. Although, to be clear, we're not in a position in our recommendation to fund all of the needs and projects that those plans identified. So fundamentally, any budget is a balancing act and involves some degree of compromise. And that's what makes preparing a budget a difficult process and a difficult decision. And I think it's fair to say each one of us has a different sense of what we would consider an affordable budget. But let me be clear, we have excluded projects and priorities that we believe would be warranted in this town in order to achieve what the budget that we are going to be proposing for you tonight. So Mike and Audrey will walk you through the details of those recommendations, which we do believe represent a reasonable and responsible approach to investing in this fast-growing community. But I really want to underscore, tonight is really the starting point of 2 months of conversation and dialogue. We have 2 full days of council deliberations scheduled with you in December, and we are very much prepared to hear your questions, your comments, and your feedback. And we're prepared to help advise on changes if you believe changes to the proposed budget are appropriate. So I'd really encourage you to read and absorb the details in the budget materials that you'll be receiving tonight, because the rationale for the recommendations we're making really are explained in more detail there. So as always, as council, you are the final decision makers. This will ultimately be your budget, and we're here to help make sure that the budget reflects your priorities and your values. So I know I can speak for all the staff here and the leadership team in saying we look forward to the dialogue with you over the next couple of months. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mike and to Audrey.
Great. Thank you, Oliver. Thank you, Council. Obviously, a lot of work has gone into, I would say this budget has been a culmination of probably almost 9 months of work throughout 2024. Reminder to Council, we are asking Council to review and eventually approve a multi-year budget, a 2-year budget for 2025 and 2026, with an opportunity at the end of 2025 to review the 2026 budget going forward. It should, there be substantive changes. Our budget is what we call a service-based budgeting, so we have a really good understanding of those costs of those services that we are providing to our residents and making sure that we are getting value for our taxpayers' dollars. In addition to the 2-year operating budget, we are presenting a 2-year capital budget as well with an 8-year forecast, and that'll be part of the approval process that we will be seeking is approval on those capital projects to give a broader line sight to those big projects that are enduring, are not a few-month projects, but could span multiple time periods. So just to start off, Oliver touched on a few of these things. Some of the things that we explored, we did deep dive into, what are the impacts on the budget? What impacts the budget? Oliver touched on already the community strategic plan recently approved by Council. What is it going to take to achieve those? What are the resource requirements that are going to have to be taken into account? We have multiple master plans, facilities, Innisfil Beach Park, Parks and Rec, stormwater, transportation, sustainability, culture. We have development charge bylaws that we have, background studies, economic development strategic plans. Our official plan that governs how we grow in this community. More recently, provincial policy statement has been revised. We have to take those into account, ultimately to create a long-term financial plan that's sustainable and enduring and makes best use of taxpayer dollars. As well, we also manage almost $750 million of assets that need to be maintained and repaired, and making sure that we have enough funds to keep those assets going, alive, and serving our residents. We take into account other things, economic trends, inflation. We've seen inflation has come down. It doesn't, but in the past, the inflation has been so high, between 8 and 14%, and depending which index you're looking at. The bar has been raised higher. Luckily, inflation is coming into check and closer to the 2% range, but unfortunately, everything just generally costs us more, and we need to take that into account. There is also an impact on the labor market. What are the current trends in the labor market? It is an employee's market. It is still challenging to recruit and retain qualified employees, and all are alluded to in his talk. We need to invest in staff, and this is what this budget tries to do as well. We need to understand the ever-changing legislative regulatory framework. We saw the opening of the legislature a few weeks ago, more changes to the legislation, and the pending, possibly near-term election coming up that we need to take account and be wary of and keep our close eye on. So we're taking all those things into account. Our growth forecasts, we make no mistake, we are a rapidly growing community. Our assessment growth is lagging, but that just takes time to kick through the impact process. But make no mistake, we are a growing community. Oliver stated, population is growing. We need to maintain those service levels and having the right staffing and resources to be able to do that. Those level of services are really critical, so we take into account what council was looking for from a level of service. Are there new services that we've heard council wants to put forward? But those are all the pieces that we as staff take into account. It's a massive list, but we try to do our best to sift through it and make sure we're hitting all those key items. Our budget process, as I said, has been going on for about 8 or 9 months, thanks to the finance team. And as I said, this is not a finance budget. This is a corporate budget. This is a budget that includes every single facet of the organization at all levels of the organization for input. Departments develop the budgets. We do comprehensive reviews. We took a deep dive into really what was discretionary. Did we have any discretionary room? Maybe we could give this up. What was non-discretionary? And that analysis really showed us we've done a good job over the years, being a tight organization, keeping things tight, and not having a lot of wiggle room in these discretionary items. We need these non-discretionary helps us achieve our current levels of service. We had to make tough decisions in step 3. We have a lot of change requests that we were looking for. We put forward, as Oliver said, the ones that we really felt were impactful to this community. And but council will have the option of reviewing those as we go through the budget process. We are looking at both capital and operating and trying to balance those budgets, which is really, really important from a cash flow perspective. The better budgeting, better cash flow analysis, the better investment decisions we can make, the better returns we get on those investments, and that investment return comes back and helps reduce the tax levy. Absolutely critical, making sure we balance both aspects of the budget. We did reach out to the community. We want their input. We put out a survey to understand what their needs were. We had 196 residents respond to our budget survey, which was a great response. Really happy to have the public engaged. The main items that you'll see right there: roads, parks, police, fire, storm management. Flooding is always an issue in Innisfil that we're trying to manage as well. We appreciate the resident input, and we've even had input even as of last week. So some more input into that, and we'll get into that a little bit later as well. I think it's really important to understand the pressures that we have been facing and trying to understand it as we try and rationalize the budget that we're about to present to you. As I mentioned, the assessment growth. We are growing, and we're waiting for the assessment growth to catch up through MPAC. So that really helps, the assessment growth really helps offset some of those things that are services for our existing residents. I already mentioned inflation. Things just cost more right now. Oliver alluded to, more than 50% of our budget is related to staff. Staff are the ones that are the main providers of these services. This budget reflects Council's past decisions in compensating staff equitably through collective agreements and compensation reviews. We're trying to maintain the existing service levels through this budget. This is somewhat what we call a budget of maintaining current service levels, albeit we're feeling pressures from changing expectations. We have changing demographics, more seniors, more diverse cultural groups, migration from the GTA, especially post-pandemic, where people are working from home and can work remotely. We're getting asks for higher levels of service. Asks like pickleball, for example. As well, we have service partners, the library, police, the county, the conservation authorities, all are feeling the same pressures. We took into account all these pressures. So taking that all into account, staff are recommending a 7.53% increase for 2025 and a 6.89% increase in 2026. Be mindful that includes the 1% capital levy, which is a key investment for the town to make sure we maintain our assets in a cost-effective manner, ensure delivery of our services. We paused that capital levy once through COVID, but it's best practices in municipal world to continue that. This council and past councils had the foresight to invest in our assets, or ultimately it will cost us in the long run. For the most part, we are doing some modest service enhancement, but as I said, this is a budget of maintaining current service levels. To do this, we are really strongly pushing for an investment in our existing staff. We are working, as Oliver said, working with our service partners, the library council, the South Simcoe Police, the county conservation authorities. As Oliver said, those budgets aren't finalized. We had to make assumptions in some cases. The South Simcoe Police, we made an assumption, we thought a reasonable assumption going forward of the same rate increase of 6.9% last year. We built that into this year's budget in 2026. The conservation authorities had a slight increase, as did the county. Great news, though, as of yesterday, County Council did deliberate and they dropped their percentage increase. We made an assumption of 4%. They've lowered that to 3.625%. And pending county council approval in the end of November, that will change that number you see on the screen there from 7.53 down to 7.41% tax levy increase. So just a summary of this, this is sort of the impact on the average homeowner. In 2025, we're looking at just under $380. That'll be a little bit less with the county revision, and $373 in a blended tax rate. So this is taking into account all services from all municipal partners. And as a reminder, of that money that we collect, it is proportionate. The town really receives to provide those services to residents, about 50% of that. If you include the police, that's about two-thirds of that. The rest, one-third of it, does not come back into the town. And now I'm going to pass it over to Audrey to really dig a little bit of a deep dive into the services. As I said, we're a service-based budget, and to really understand the impacts of those services.
Good evening. So as Mike indicated, we deliver a service-based budget. And that service-based budget is aligned with the various services that we do deliver and the town's strategic plan. The services are grouped into 5 categories: safety, growth, connection, management, and sustainability. Over the next few slides, I'm going to take you through a high-level overview of each category. And for each category, speak to some of the significant budget pressures that the categories are feeling, as well as identify change requests that are being recommended. And by change requests, I mean requests for permanent staff. So as Oliver spoke to, there are some requests for additional staff included in this budget. I will also identify those change requests or requests for permanent staff that were not included. Like Mike mentioned, there was an extensive review process. Departments put forward their requests for permanent staff, and we had to take a really hard look at that. And so there's, only a portion of the requests that were requested that are being recommended and included in the budget. The budget process also, I should say, our process as staff also included a deep dive into the budget requests. So we really looked hard and deep in those areas where there were increases. And so we reviewed those, and there is an appendix to the budget that includes the requests that came from departments, but that we did not include. So in Appendix C of the budget document, you'll be able to see the items that we reviewed and that were not included in the budget. You'll be able to see, we describe the impacts that will happen to potentially services, or how we will manage those pieces not making the budget, as well as the financial impacts for each one of those items. Okay, yeah, sorry. So the first category is safety, and included in safety is bylaw, fire, and police. And so as Mike indicated, we don't have the South Simcoe Police Board budget yet, so we've made an assumption of 6.9% for 2025 and 2026. For capital, we used estimates contained in the police board budget for 2024 because they did include in that budget forecasts for 2025 and 2026 for capital. Capital is shared 50-50 with Bradford. In terms of the operating costs, those are shared. There's a calculation that the municipalities work together on. It includes assessment growth, households and population. Because we do already know what that assessment growth is and will be used in 2025, we're able to draft what that increase looks like for 2025. And so first estimates, our estimate here at this point in time indicates that Innisfil's share will go up slightly to 53.24% from 53.14% for our portion of the police board's operating budget. So if we move into then, in terms of what are those budget pressures that the service areas within the category of safety are feeling. And wages and benefits, we're feeling that across the corporation. There's, previously approved compensation adjustments, collective agreements that we have included the impacts for those into the budget. For those employee groups and collective agreements that will expire during the period of the 2-year budget, or for non-union employees, we've included estimates based on trends in comparable municipalities. And so, those pressures with wages and benefits, you'll see in each one of the categories. For growth, of course, in this category, as we get more residents and more properties, there's more residents to protect and to serve. Some other financial impacts related to this service area include the end of the joint fire chief agreement, increased facility and vehicle maintenance. And I also did want to note here as well, and you'll see this in the capital budget, that we are, a capital project proposed for 25 and 26 is the construction of a fire station in Innisfil Heights. Recommended change requests that have been included in the staff recommended budget include, for 2025, 2 fire inspectors, but I will note that one of those is a conversion from a contract to a permanent. So we've had this contract position in place for a number of years, and we're requesting that that get converted to a permanent position. a fire training officer in 2025, a municipal law enforcement programs coordinator in 2025, and in 2026, a fire inspector. So as I indicated, there are also some change requests, of course, that did not get included. And sorry, I just need to go to that page here. And so change requests that were not included, so that were submitted but not included, we've spoke to, we did review these, and it's about a balancing act of terms of, what we believe our priorities to be, while balancing it with affordability for the taxpayers. And so those change requests not included include 2 fire captains, 8 firefighters, an admin support position for fire, and a community standards officer. So the next category is growth, and included in growth is the services of building permit and inspection, economic development, engineering services, and planning services. And one of the things that I want to note here is that for building permit and inspection services, it's governed by the Building Code Act. So any revenues that are generated through the fees, building permit fees and inspection fees, must be used to pay for building code related expenditures. And so any financial impacts or requests for new staff through building permit and inspection services do not impact the tax levy because they are fully funded from building permit and inspection fees. Budget pressures in this area, again, similar wage and benefit pressures. Growth in this area means, we have more permits to process, more inspections to do, more planning applications, and more infrastructure to build. We also have some budget pressures in here in this area related to engineering recoveries. We've got a decrease in engineering related recoveries, and that's in part related to a transition to a new fees recovery model, and there's a phased-in approach for that model. It applies to new applications, and so there are some impacts related to that as we transition to that new fees model. Change requests included in this category include a plans examiner, and that is a plans examiner for building permit and inspection fees. So that's fully funded from inspection revenues and reserves. We have a supervisor of policy in planning, of policy planning. And then we've got 2 other positions in 2025. Both of these are conversions from contracts to permanents. These contracts are in place, and we are staff is seeking to move those to a permanent position. And that's for a development project manager and in economic development, a DMZ program coordinator. Change requests not included include an economic development champion and in economic development and a senior administrative assistant in planning. As well, as I indicated, we've got this Appendix C where we outline some items that were requested and not included. There were some economic development project expenses that we did not include. And so you'll find that described in Appendix C. The next category we have is connection, and so this includes citizen requests and services, community engagement, council and community services, customer service, health and wellness, Innisfil transit, library, and sports and recreational activities. So here we have, in this category, we've got the library board. The library board did approve their budget on October the 21st, and they are recommending their budget to council and recommending that council do approve it. There's an increase in 2025 to their overall levy of 7.7% and 5.7% in 2026. Budget pressures in this area, similar pressures for wages and benefits. Growth, of course, in this area equals, more residents accessing services. And one of the larger budget pressures in this area is the increased demand in Innisfil transit. We've included or are recommending 2 new positions in this category, one for a customer services rep in 2025 and a recreational coordinator that is going to have a senior focus. Change requests not included in this category include a health and wellness project coordinator, a youth project coordinator, records clerk admin support position, and a customer solution seeker. As well, again, included in Appendix C, we did receive a request from the Berrien Area Physician Recruitment Area Task Force for an additional $15,000. And so we have not included that. And so instead, we've maintained the existing $15,000 annual amount in our base budget for that organization. The next category is sustainability, and so this includes the conservation authorities, facilities management, parks and open spaces, stormwater management, and transportation services and transportation network. The conservation authorities, so we have received the NVCA budget. It is out for review. It's been circulated. I believe you received it as an information item through a council agenda. So it's out for comment. I believe that they're looking for comments back by November the 22nd. So it includes, at this point, a 14.92% increase over the prior year. We don't have a forecast. They don't do a 2-year budget, so based on consultation with staff, we've included a 3% budget increase for 26. LSRCA, they're still in the process of developing their budget, but we have had some communication with staff there and have included a 3.07% increase. I believe they are scheduled to table their budget on December the 20th with with board approval in January of 2025. So for budget pressures, similar again for wages and benefits. In this particular category, growth means more parks, more roads, and stormwater to maintain. We also have pressures related to, legislation and environmental legislation regarding excess soils, some pressures regarding increased costs related to traffic safety, and we've got utilities, additional costs for town square and street lighting. The town square costs are really truing up to what the actual costs we are experiencing. When we originally built the budget in 23-24, we didn't have it wasn't fully operational at the time we were building the budget, so this is really bringing it in line with what's actually happening, and increased street lighting costs, repairs and maintenance related to street lighting. And then we've got contractual obligation increases and increases related to maintenance of facilities and fleet. In this particular category, we've got one change request for a roads operator in 2026. Change requests not include a stormwater technologist and an arborist. And as well, again, in that Appendix C, you'll find a list. There's a number of items that was requested through the department, but after discussion by staff, we've decided not to include them. And they include things like dust control, guide rail, flood control, ditching, traffic counts, parking lot painting, etc. So if you refer to Appendix C, you'll see those items listed. You'll see the impacts of those items not proceeding in the amounts. And our final category is management, and this includes corporate management, legal, financial management, fleet, IT, and people and talent. So again, budget pressures, wages and benefits, common thread throughout our budget. Growth here, so while these departments are for the most part supporting the external facing departments, growth still very much impacts this category and these services. We have more employees to serve, we've got more fleet to look after, more insurance and legal matters coming in, as the town looks to modernize processes and processes both internally and externally for residents and businesses. We've got increased software costs. And fleet pressures here are, we've got increasing fleet costs, and which are funded from a fleet reserve. So if, we've got significant pressures of funds being pulled out of the reserve, so we need to increase how much we're putting into that reserve to keep up with the requirements. And so we're feeling those pressures in this particular category. As well, with bank rates decreasing, our bank interest on short-term investments is decreasing. We do have some revenues to offset that, being penalties interest on receivables, and we've an increase in hydro dividends. One of the things that I did want to bring to your attention here is that we will be utilizing the property tax rate stabilization reserve to smooth out the impact of the tax rate increase. And so you'll see that described in the financial overview. Change requests that we are proposing here: a P&T partner for 2025, a payroll administrator for 2025. In 2025, we've got a grant-focused position. That's a conversion of a contract to a permanent position. And then in 2026, an AP specialist. Positions, change requests not recommended and not included include a P&T associate and an IT ERP specialist. In terms of, as well then included in Appendix C, items related to this area that we did not increase the budget by include the building of the fleet reserve. We see big requirements for that reserve, so we didn't build it up to the extent that we know that we should have. And as well, we received a request from the Innisfil Community Foundation for an additional $50,000. And so that has not been included, and instead we've maintained the $200,000 annual amount that goes to the Innisfil Community Foundation. This is a slide related to the service enhancements that I spoke to that I haven't included on the other slides, but these are a list of items that staff put forward and we decided not to include. So it's there for your reference. So if we look at the operating budget, so in terms of our total operating budget, and so this represents our expenditures, and we are delivering a 2-year budget, so this is the average of both years. It excludes the police capital levy, and it excludes it excludes the police levy, and it excludes the capital levy. So yeah, our average expenditures here are $77 million, and you can see 50% of that is related to wages and benefits. And so as you've been hearing, I mean, we're a service delivery organization, and the biggest resource in doing that is wages and benefits, and you can see that from this chart here. The proposed revenues for the operating budget. So unlike the federal government or the provincial government, we have to deliver a balanced budget. And how do we do that? Well, we first determine, what are those expenditures? Then we have revenues that potentially can offset that, other than taxation. So we've got user fee revenues, and so there's a list of them there: user fees, penalties and interest, dividends. And so staff really do pay attention to this, because any amount that we can increase these other revenues, of course, reduces the reliance on property taxation. Property taxation as a percentage of the total revenues is 61% here. So switching gears to the capital budget, like Mike said, we are delivering, there's a 10-year capital budget contained in the budget document. We're looking for council to approve, of course, the 25 and 26 capital budget, and the 8 years is simply a forecast. It's $169 million for these 2 years, and you can see where the biggest pressures and the biggest for capital projects are, and that's in roads, parks, and in fire. And of course, in that fire number of $31 million is included the Innisfil Heights fire station. And so here is a slide with some of the bigger items that are contained in the capital budget for 25 and 26. There's the Innisfil Heights fire station on there. And then you can see there's a big Bay Point Road reconstruction project, a large project, $34 million. I think you will recall us mentioning before that, when we budget for projects, for the most part, we do budget for them in total at the beginning. And so that's a large project that actually spans over 4 years. So the first couple of years are different, I guess, assessments and planning. And it looks like construction begins in 27 to be completed in 2028. In terms of your budget binders and the budget documents, so the budget document consists of one core, there's a core budget document, and in that budget document, you'll find the first document in there is about building the budget. So that describes, the various inputs we used in developing the budget and the processes that we went through. There's a financial overview in the document, and in there you should find you will find all those financial considerations that you need to consider as you debate and deliberate the budget. There's service business plans in there. So for each service is a service business plan. The service business plan contains financial tables. We've got explanations in there in terms of the year-over-year variance. And it as well includes those change requests. So the recommended change requests are included in the service plans for those services that are requesting additional staff. So, please read those. They're very informative, very detailed, and should explain the rationale and request for each of those change requests. And then, of course, there's an appendices that include various different pieces of information, all intended to support the numbers in the document and provide you as much detail as possible related to, what are those year-over-year increases, why do we see these increases, and explaining those pieces. So there will be a separate document for capital project detail sheets. There's quite a few of them for 25 and 26. So it's the second document. For each capital project sheet, there's a detailed business plan related expenditures and how we're funding that. As well, documents are posted on the website. Currently, we've got the NVCA draft budget document on there for your reference. Once we receive the budget draft documents from LSRCA and police, we'll post those on there as well for your reference. And then key budget documents, that financial overview, there's lots of great information in there. I'll direct you to those tables. We've got the table 1 includes the recommended change requests in there, and you can see as well from that table the impacts to the blended rate for it. And then we've got a second table for those are the requests that we did not put forward, but they're there for your consideration. Table 7, this table 7, it's a high-level overview of the change in budget year over year. So it provides you at a high level a nice a snapshot of what's driving the increase, the year-over-year increases. And then, of course, I've already talked about the service business plans and change requests. And I'll pass it over to Mike for council.
Sorry, thanks, Audrey. Just to wrap up, I hope you're good with drinking from a fire hose. You got a lot of information there. What the intent here is not to, we're trying to give you a high level, so when you actually sit down and read those budget books, you say, hey, I remember something about that. That was brought up. So the intent is not to memorize it all now. You will have lots of time to consider that. So as we move forward, just council's role, ask of staff is, really look and consider this budget and under certain lens. Like, did staff achieve the right balance? Our recommendations, were we able to, achieve that right balance between growth and really preserving the tax levy? Keep the lens of the long-term financial sustainability, making sure that we are positioned well for growth in our infrastructure, making sure that we are maintaining our current assets, and making sure that they will be serviceable long into the future from an asset management perspective. So just keep that in mind as you're reviewing the document. Just what to expect from deliberations. This is staff's recommendation. You can approve it, agree to it. You have the option, as Oliver said. This is a 2-month discussion. This is a conversation for, you know, for some time period to understand those change requests. You can remove those change requests. You can add those. Audrey gave a list of those things that it was tough decisions for staff to decide what should be in and what should be out of the budget. And you could add things that you want to that you think were neither considered or included as a recommendation. A really key note here, Audrey touched on it. We did a deep analysis and really tried to understand and prioritize these projects. We struggled to try and come with a reasonable tax rate. We are making the recommendation to tap into the tax rate stabilization reserve for 2025 in the amount of $800,000 for 2025. It's to help to level the budget. We are going to be looking at some repay back in 2026 to smooth that out, but it was a challenge to try and prioritize and meet its current service level demands without doing that. So it's something council needs to consider. We are in a healthy condition in that reserve, but really want a council to understand the lengths that we went through to try and achieve this budget. Similar from a council deliberation, people typically focus on the operating side of the budget. I really encourage you to look at the capital side. The investment in our capital infrastructure is staggering. 2025, $93 million and $78 million in 2026. Those are large dollar amounts that we're working with, but we truly believe they're affordable and we can achieve those from a resourcing capacity perspective. We feel we can achieve those. But you can look at those carefully. Look at those projects. Are there some that you think should be on there? Some we think we can defer. You guys are closest to the residents and really have a good understanding, and there will be the opportunity to have the discussion on those projects. So just to wrap up the process, we're tabling the budget to you today. Today is the day I think you all have been waiting for. We have been waiting for as a staff. We have the next few weeks to review your budget binders. They are hot off the press, waiting for your review. So please take your time. There will be opportunities for Q&A over the next few weeks and ask those questions. Email us your questions in advance. We can help you as we move towards budget deliberation days on December 4th and December 6th. They will be fulsome conversations and really looking forward to that. And we will move towards final amendments early in the new year. We have to be mindful that under current legislation, the mayor still at some point has to declare that budget, but Mayor Dolan has always reinforced with us that this is a council decision and council endorsement of this. So we will work out those timeframes to meet the legislative requirements for this budget. So that's it. Thank you for your time, and the three of us and all of staff here are open to any questions.
Just one moment, please, Deputy. So thank you very much for the presentation. I know that it was a difficult presentation to give to us. So I'm going to go around and get questions and first thoughts in a moment, but just a few thoughts from me first. So the last time that you did this, you had been at this table weeks. You weren't even sure how to turn your mic on and off yet. And we were asking you to pass it to your budget. So now you're 2 years in, you're seasoned. As the CAO said, and Mr. Melanishan said 9 months of work from staff have gone into this, but ultimately it is our decision, and now it's our turn to do the work. So you'll get those books. We'll have lots of time to go to deal with them. I really want you to look at it two ways. Like, is there things in there that you think are not necessary or not necessary at this point? But also make sure that the things that you love that we do now are still there. I mean, I did make a couple of notes about trying to maintain. So just make sure that whatever it is that is the most important thing to you in the community, that it really is still there. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I do sit on the Police Services Board, and this could get worse. That could go up. I don't think the 6.9 is going to cut it for police. The police have not approved their budget yet. The Police Services Board has not approved the budget yet. They won't do it till the end of November. So, you know, while we were able to scrape a few points off of the county budget, I don't want you to get your hopes up, because I'm sure that the police will add on to that. And then just a couple of comments kind of from the broader municipal sector. We're not the only ones in this position. A lot of municipalities are. We don't have the luxury of having a deficit and letting it grow, and we have to have a balanced budget. And as you've heard me say, I'm sure 1,000 times, out of all the taxes that we pay, whether it's sales tax, property tax, income tax, gas tax, whatever those taxes are that you pay in your life, only 9 cents of each of that dollar comes to the municipal government. 9 cents of your tax dollar comes to us. And we have the most infrastructure to maintain, build, than the other two levels of government put together. So it's a tough job we've chosen. I want you to talk to people, talk to your residents, and also please direct them to the town. We've got the budget page that, you know, that they can go to the website. I guess what I'm trying to say is, if somebody's very upset and goes on Alcona chats and rants about the budget, that doesn't get, believe it or not, our staff don't follow Alcona chats. So that doesn't get to where it needs to be. It doesn't get those suggestions, that frustration, whatever it is, doesn't make it to where it needs to get to. So please encourage people to use our channels so the people who are making these tough decisions are hearing the suggestions and the complaints and the frustrations and the praise and anything else that could be out there. But it's really important that we hear these things. So we're going to have our 2 full days on the 4th and the 6th. We're going to have question and answer time with staff, but really it is just about diving into those books. And before anyone asks, I know the strong mayor powers says that the mayor can own the budget. I'm not owning this budget. Council is owning this budget. We're doing this the way we've always done it, and we'll walk through with this. We'll fight over each dollar, penny, whatever, and we'll get to somewhere everybody can live with, and we'll make this decision together. So that's my soapbox speech tonight. So now I'll go to members of council. Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was taking notes through the presentation, and I noticed you stated that there was $800,000 pulled from the property tax stabilization reserve for this purpose to balance. How much did it lower it, and by what percentage? We're talking after county, we paddled over quarters of percentages. So to come back and say to the residents, I'm sorry, but we're going to hit you with an extra 50% on top of the previous 2 years, it's not the most palatable to people. I've got some questions in regards to FTEs, because there was a lot of them listed. I was just wondering, because with our soft services, how many total FTEs are we looking at in this budget over the next year or two? The capital levy reserve, I believe I saw on one of the slides, it was 3% was drawn for the capital levy. Am I correct in that? In one of the slides you said that, I believe you stated that there was 3% pulled from the capital levy towards the assets. It was in the pie chart.
So I'm going to start by saying we're looking basically for, more high-level comments tonight. get those questions to staff. We're going to have our full day deliberation to really get into the nitty-gritty and the weeds of every one, but more general comments tonight just to give staff the opportunity to get a fulsome answer to all of your questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Melanishin, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Dolan, just really quickly to respond to the first two questions, it's relatively easy. The 800,000 that we pulled from the reserves, typically a 1% tax levy is in the range of 900,000-ish. So each 1% increase in the tax levy, it comes to about 900. So we're just a little less than 1% on that $800,000 pull from the tax rate stabilization reserve. You will see in the budget, as we move forward into 2026, we're trying to reestablish that back into the reserve. So we're moving about 500,000 back in. And that's a number, as we go through deliberations, we can also explore the use of that tax rate stabilization reserve. The number of change requests, I think it's not as simple, because there is a little bit complicated a perspective from change requests that are people that are already budgeted for shifting from a contract position to a full-time position. I think we're looking at 9 FTE asks plus a few conversions plus a couple into 2026 as well. On an average, it's just over 6 new ads that we're adding in over both years, over the 2 years. And we'll have to get back to you on that 3% levy question, but we can take that offline and respond to that.
And in regards to the capital assets, are we maintaining with the growth of the city? Is that what the situation is? Do we have the assets capable of maintaining even though the growth is occurring? Or are we looking at building new as with the growth?
Great, Councillor, through you, Mayor Dolan. Great question. It's all predicated on the capital program. The capital program is predicated on the development charge background study in part as well, to make sure that we're meeting growth using development charges to fund growth. But we all know growth doesn't pay for growth as much as it's supposed to pay for growth. It doesn't pay for growth. So that the capital program is built. The DC background study is built. Using the capital program, or the capital program is used based on what's in the DC background study that has been approved by council, that we have development charges created for to help fund those. It's the 1% capital levy that really helps us with the asset replacement and renewal to keep those assets, the longevity of those assets going forward. And that's why that 1% is a critical investment in this community.
And lastly, one comment. During our last budget process, I remember our CAO stating that we're being presented with a wish list, that this is what you would like to see for the benefit of the town, and each department has on the table what they believe is the best interest of that department and the community as a whole, that it's not written in stone and that there's going to be discussion. So that gives me hope, and hopefully it will calm the residents when they see this, because this is not written down firm yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, you're right. It's not written down firm yet, but I also want to acknowledge that it's not the wish list. The wish list went to staff, and staff cut a whole bunch of that wish list out before it even came to us. So they've already done some of the saying no to people about what they wanted. So it's up to us now to decide if we want to go further. Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know if I should ask this question now or later on, but with County Council increasing their and giving themselves an increase of 145% odd, what is the damage coming back to the town for that?
Through Mayor Dolan, to be honest, we'd have to do we haven't done that analysis. I haven't seen the final capital budget, or the final county budget. I'm assuming they've factored in that wage increase. Mayor Dolan, I deflect to you on that question, but we can do the analysis on that just to see what the actual impact was.
Deputy Mayor?
To answer Mr. Saunders, Councillor Saunders' question, we did a breakdown. I sat down with one of the managers at the county and broke it down with between the 16 cities and the cost of the raise of the council itself, and it broke down to approximately $2 per person per year. So we're not talking like $50, $60, if that's the assumption. It's nothing close to that.
So there's $2 we can knock off it right there. Anyone? Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Your Worship. Like you said, I want to keep this very high level, so no specific questions. Those pointed questions will come later. With a smile. I agree with the mayor that I think the police number is low. I've been hearing in other communities 10 and 20% increases in police budgets. I hope we don't see that here, but I can see that changing the discussion quite dramatically. What is the timeline for receiving the police budget?
Mayor Dolan, I think you can clarify. I think it's November 27th is the board meeting
Okay, all right.
for
Thank
approval
you.
of the
Okay.
police budget.
I didn't hear that. Okay. A couple of other just general things that I was kind of half expecting that because the conservation authorities had been cut in terms of the responsibilities, that we would not see a 14% increase from Nottawasaga. I thought the increases would be inflationary, maybe in the 2%, so I'm quite surprised to see that since we're not getting the environmental side of what they do for us. The other side of the question was we were needing to either contract or hire ecosystem planner, an ecologist for planning. So I didn't do we have a contract person now to handle the stuff the Conservation Authority wasn't doing? And if we don't, I didn't see an ecologist planner in this document.
Director Lee?
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. Through you to Councillor Waters. That's correct. You did not see that in the budget that was being presented to you. We do not have those resources in-house. We would contract consulting services.
Okay, thank you. And my last comment was I did hear some discussion around that flooding items and stormwater management stuff had been put aside considering the increased number of floods that we're getting. Is that a wise decision in terms around safety, that we should be not putting the resources into that piece? You know, all the work that needs to be done in the east side of Ward 4 that needs to be done. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there, whether or not around safety, whether or not that's a wise decision, considering we live in Innisfil, which is relatively flat and prone to flooding. So, but generally, and then I'll just say finally, I think I wasn't expecting 7%, to be quite honest with you. Consider how hard we worked on the 5% last time. I thought we might see a bit of reprieve, but I certainly do understand the pressures that we're under, and I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Mr. Melanishin.
Just one quick comment through you, Mayor Dolan, to Councillor Waters. I will direct you to there is a good rationale and business case why we had to make tough decisions on those positions that we did leave out of the budget. So I encourage you to go read the rationale behind it and the reason why we prioritize some positions over the other, and then we can get to the fulsome discussion in December.
Other comments, questions? Seeing none, thank you again for the presentation. I know it wasn't the easiest one to deliver. And now, Council, it's up to us. And I, again, ask everybody to faithfully and with a fine-tooth comb go through every page of that budget binder. We owe it to our residents. Half of Canadians are living paycheck to paycheck right now. And our food banks are seeing an all-time usage they've never seen before. So let that be your motivation for digging in there and looking for every penny that we can find. So with that, I'd ask for a mover and a seconder, please, to receive the delegation. Councillor Drodge, Councillor Richardson, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. That's the end of item 6. Item 7 will be County Council, municipal associations, or any other associations that you are asked to attend on behalf of this council. Anyone have any updates? Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's been brought up numerous times already tonight, but I'm just going to once again reiterate. The county had a vote on the budget. There was a split vote between 3.5 and 3.75, and it came down to like just the wire. So The county as a whole voted on 3.625, down the middle, I guess you could say, and then we went and moving forward with that. To clarify a point for Councillor Saunders, I just did the amounts, broke them down. So for each resident in Innisfil, for the raise for the county, it amounts to $2.72 per person in 16 cities. So that's just a point in that regard. We also discussed the detachment billing for the OPP. There's a lot. It's been province-wide, the OPP, their increase. So when we talk 6 or 7% with the South Simcoe Police, we're not getting hit as hard as some of the smaller communities. Wasaga got hit with a 22.8% increase. I believe there was another small town that got hit almost over 30. So we had a discussion potentially about forming a countywide police force. We're going to do some research on that. And we had a letter from the warden sent to the provincial government to help address this. We're looking at finding a way to help our smaller communities that don't have what we do here. We had an ECDEV meeting with the county as well. There's something called the Invest Partner Portal that's under Invest Attraction Activities for the county. They have a digital inventory of industrial properties across Ontario which can be accessed by qualified partners. So in essence, they'll come to the town, they'll come to the county, they'll go to the province and say, look, this is what we're looking for. We need it, for example, half a kilometer from a rail line, or half an hour from the Honda plant, or we need a specific set of the things for near a lake. And then they go to the companies and then they break it down as to what they can offer them. And it's a database that puts everything into one spot, which is really cool. CANSEC and the 2025, later this year, the aerospace and defense industries are going to be doing delegations. I think it's really cool that you wouldn't think Simcoe County is into aerospace engineering or military technology, but if you dig a little deeper, they got some very cool things. Exploring growth with agritourism, we're pushing for that. A lot of that is pick your own farms, tours, petting zoos, the whole bit, like anything that can do with agriculture to encourage and educate people overall, I think is phenomenal. It's something simple, it's something safe, it's fresh air, exercise, and we need to promote more of it. Thank you.
Anyone else have any updates? Deputy Mayor, whose idea was it to split the 3.5 to the 3.75 and come up with the 3.625?
Well, Madam Mayor, I believe it was you. Yes, she witnessed everyone debating and talking and saw the division in the room and came across with an idea that not everybody was happy with, but not everybody was truly upset with.
Thank you. So just to add to that, it's not written in stone yet either. It will come back to ratification in 2 weeks at County Council, and there may still be a push to go back to the 3.5 again. I also understand that there will be an ask for a reconsideration for the 167% raise, and also maybe a reconsideration to look at reconsideration to go from 33 members of council down to 17. So there might be the opportunity to vote on those two items again and convince those people who voted for it to vote against it next time. The other thing we talked about at County Council was the policing, and while the Deputy Mayor is correct, there were some huge percentages, particularly in Collingwood, all of the OPP organizations, but particularly Collingwood, because it's the OPP, still with those percentages, it still comes in significantly cheaper than South Simcoe Police. Having said that, you get what you pay for. We heard from members that have switched from their own service to OPP that were disappointed with the level of service they'd been receiving. Midland is a good example of that. We'll see what happens. I don't want to presume anything. I just want to say that policing there's a a cost to policing. It's increased a lot this year, and what it has done is it's closed the gap between what it costs to have your own municipal police service and what it costs to have an OPP contract. So with that, then that takes care of item 7. We'll go to items 8, which is the consent list, and we'll go through these items, starting with A1, the council meeting minutes dated October 23rd. Can I just check, Madam Clerk, if anybody needs a break, or shall we motor on through here? We're good to go? Okay. B1, the summary report from the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee. I know that Councillor Constantine was very excited to see that crosswalk painted across Maple Road. C1, the staff report regarding refreshment vehicle bylaw amendments. Councillor Drodge.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's more just a comment. Thank you for cleaning that up. It's much more easier to understand, so thanks for doing that.
Thank you, Councillor Drodge. C2, the consideration of objection to notice of intent to designate under Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. So can I just ask a question on that then? If can it be appealed, as I understand it? And if it is appealed and goes to the OLT, then do we, who defends the Heritage Committee's position? Mr. Carrera or Mr. Parkin? Thank you.
Thank you, Worship. So tonight is just a consideration of the objection. So the decision is whether to proceed with the process of designation, and a formal bylaw approving the designation will come to council at a future date. If the matter is appealed by the property owner, it would be referred to the Ontario Land Tribunal, at which point there would either be negotiations and a settlement reached, or it would proceed to a hearing. It would be a decision of council in the town, so it would be the town responsible for defending the town's position on that matter.
Thank you, Mr. Barkin. Item C3, the Development Charge Amendment, Bill 185. Seeing none, we had Jacqueline on the line with us in case from Hempson, in case we had any questions. So thank you, but I don't believe there's any questions on that item. So have a good rest of your evening. C4, the Melrose Subdivision Water and Wastewater Servicing Allocation. Okay, then we go into items D1, the proposed budget. So I just wanted to ask staff, if members that are watching tonight or in the future would like to look at one of those budget books or dive in and ask questions on more specific questions, how would they go about that? Mr. Melanishin?
Through your worship, the budget book will be electronically published tonight on the website, and we encourage residents to review it, just as we make the same request of council. And we are on the website page, there is an email tab to email the finance team. That comes directly to myself and Treasurer Webb and the finance team, so we will respond to those and share those questions with council. The other approach is to send an email to clerks or reach out to the clerks department, and the clerks will share that with staff and council, and we will address that in the next couple months in deliberations.
Thank you, Mr. Melanishin. And also the 2 days, full days of budget deliberation are public meetings, and people are welcome to attend either December the 4th or December the 6th and listen and get engaged that way as well. D2, Building Safer Communities Project Update. Deputy Mayor Feller.
Thank you, Worship. I understand after the 2025-2026 year, the funding for this will be drying up, but on the second page of the report, it says staff are exploring opportunities to sustain funding for the Building Safer Communities activities. Where are we looking, and what do we have on the horizon? Because the programs we have are incredible, and I'd like to see them continue. So any idea where we're digging for it?
Through you, Your Worship, to Deputy Mayor Fowler. The Health and Wellness team, who is in the audience tonight, is very proactive in working with financial services to look at other funding opportunities through the provincial and federal government. You will also note through the operating budget, we did have some considerations regarding sustainability for these initiatives. Those were unfortunately some of those decisions we had to make that have not been advanced. So we are taking every opportunity we can to look for partnerships as well as grant funding to be able to continue these initiatives beyond March of 2026.
Thank you, Director Figliuzzi. Anyone else? Okay, D3, the customer service results for the third quarter. Councillor Constantine.
I'm not pulling it. I just want to give a huge applause goes to Lisa and the entire customer service team for their rapid and professional response to the resident concern in Ward 2. That's a troubled ward.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Thank you, Worship. I was going to mirror Councillor Constantine's comments. I have been there when they have dealt with residents online and in person, and the amount of decorum and professionalism that they maintain is impressive, because I've seen people come in and get belligerent, get rude, get aggressive, and nothing phases them. So they're a crack team, and we're very lucky to have them.
Thank you very much. I concur. Next is D4, the municipal law enforcement activity third quarter report. I would say same goes. I know that Mitchell's team put up with a lot of angry people, and people aren't really happy to see them. So really appreciate the work that our municipal law enforcement do as well. Thank you. And D5, the building permits issued. The third quarter update on building permits. Seeing none, we'll go to the recommendation. That's not saying the building permit people aren't wonderful too. We didn't make the same. Sometimes they don't get it as the angry people like the municipal bylaw and customer service do. So next we'll go to E, that's just the bylaws. We just have the one bylaw tonight, which is just the interim for the tax levy for the all property classes. Oh, sorry, and E2, which is the assume certain lands for Webster Boulevard. Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Thank you, Worship. There's a message in the report. There's mention of a 1 foot reserve off of Webster Boulevard. I'm wondering what the purpose of the 1 foot reserve is when there's an application for 3 houses or allotment for.
Mr. Parkin?
Yep, through your worship to the Deputy Mayor. So a 1 foot reserve is a legal mechanism to prevent access to certain lands. So in this case, we're assuming an old 1 foot reserve so that 3 lots can now have legal access onto Webster. And we created a new 1 foot reserve onto another part of Webster to prevent the development of that land before a proper application is made.
Thank you, Mr. Parkin. F1, the Council Discretionary Grant Program. Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Thank you, Worship. I want to give a congratulations to Melina Bosco to attend the World Acrobatic Dance Championship in Poland to represent Canada. That's a phenomenal thing. I mean, to fly halfway around the world to represent our country, but on top of that, Innisfil. I mean, this is something to be incredibly proud of. So I want to give her all the credit in the world because, as many of you know, I've done 2 minutes and 16 seconds on a dance floor, and it wears you out like no one's business. For what they would do, it would require hospitalization for me afterwards. So we got to give this young lady as much credit as humanly possible. Thank you.
That goes to G1, which is the Police Service Board minutes. G2, the Innisfil recipient from the County of Simcoe Bursary. I did send a letter of congratulations. G3, the new organizational structure at SMDHU. G4, a thank you letter from Maple Leaf Marinas for us visiting them when it was a beautiful summer day. G5 is a proclamation for International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women, and G6, International Day with Persons with Disabilities. Then that is it. So we've had nothing pulled. So we don't need the recommendation to consider. So we'll go right to the consent list continued. And that would be moved by Councillor Richardson and seconded by Councillor Zanella. All those in favor? That is carried. And the rise recommendation, please, moved by Councillor Saunders and seconded by Councillor Ices. No rise recommendation. We don't need to rise because we didn't go into. Okay. I'm all confused because we rarely get a time when nothing's been pulled. Okay, we have no notices of motion, and we'll go to announcements, please. Ward 1, any announcements this evening?
Thank you, Worship. This Saturday, the YMCA is turning 16 years old. A free pancake breakfast from 10 to 12 is available there. And on November 22nd at the Innisfil Community Church at 6:30, it's family movie night. 2 different movies, one for adults called The Blind, and the one for kids is called The Star. $2 per person or $10 per family, including snacks. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Constantine?
Sunday, November 17, that this Sunday at 1 o'clock, there will be membership meeting at the Legion. So those that are members, you can attend.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Richardson?
Lots of great initiatives happening at the Lakeshore Branch Library. Tomorrow from 1 till 3 is Treasures and Tales for Seniors, where seniors are invited to come in and bring cherished items and share stories behind them. Every Wednesday is Gotta Get a Job employment workshop for kids, for teens grade 9 to 12. It's from 3:30 to 4:30, as well as don't forget teen nights happen every Friday night as well there. On Friday is a PA day, and so they've got a great shoot, score, science, and more that's happening at the library. November 18th, I'm excited to attend the Innisfil Business Showcase, which is from 5 till 8, which is put on in part with economic development. And then lastly, coming up on the 24th is the Santa Claus Parade, which I'm really excited to be taking part in.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Waters?
Only one short item tonight. On November 24th, there's a pancake breakfast with Santa at the Lions Hall from 9 until 12.
Thank you so much. Councillor Zanella?
Thank you. This Saturday, November 16th, the Lakeside Dance is having their 4th annual holiday market, and that is from 10 to 3 at the Lakeside Dance Studio.
Thank you. Councillor Saunders?
Friday Harbor is doing their annual tree lighting on November 23rd. Unfortunately, they haven't advertised a time, so I think it's about 6 o'clock. So that's on Saturday the 23rd. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Drodge?
Thank you, Your Worship. There's a Merry and Bright Market happening at the Tanger Outlet Mall, November 16th and 17th. This is a fundraiser for My Sister's Place. On November 17th, the Innisfil Garden Club is hosting their AGM at the Churchill Community Center, and that's at 1:30 p.m. The Churchill United Church is doing an open house historic tour, tea, bake, and craft sale. That's November 23rd from 9 to 2 p.m. And the Beach Road Market, Winter Market, is on November 23rd also from 11 to 6 p.m. That's at 1096 Shore Acres Drive. And then on November 23rd, the Cookstown Light Up Night is happening and parade.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, we've been busy for the past while. We've had Spooktacular, Bonanza, the Pumpkin Fest, The pumpkin walk, where we had over 1,500 pumpkins, so that was incredible to see late at night. This market season, so we're going to hear a lot about the markets. There's too many to count at this moment in time. I mediated an interfaith symposium with the Ahmadiyya Society recently, which is really cool, seeing everyone sit together and discuss. With a number of Remembrance Day ceremonies, the mayor took on Cookstown, I took on the Legion. On the 10th at 2 o'clock, many members of council gathered at Sandy Cove. And when we had on the November 11th, we had many people here at a town hall for Remembrance Day, and I was grateful enough to be asked to be at CFB Borden for their event, for their Remembrance Day ceremony, which was phenomenal, very well done. And on Tuesday, many members of council went to the Veterans Dinner at the Lions Hall. So we're making sure that our armed forces understood how appreciated they are and what we have. Coming up, we have the South Simcoe Police Auxiliary graduation at Town Hall on November 14th. At the same time, at the Morgan Russell Memorial Arena, they're having a public open house regarding Killarney Beach Road urbanization project, so anybody who lives in that area would be wise to come and see what's happening. On the 25th, we're having a flag raising for the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. On November 30th, at the library, there's the annual Simcoe County Gingerbread House Contest, and some of the creations are phenomenal. It's incredible. And December 7th, we have the Stroud Fire Station tree lighting. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I also want to thank Councillor Ices for attending the Barrie Remembrance Day service for us so that we could get all of our bases covered. Just a reminder to everyone, tonight we kicked off Christmas for Kids. So please, if you can, make a donation to the boxes, which will be outside. Will be a destination drop-off for them. I have to tell you, I haven't shopped for children's toys in a long time, and when I went to the store this morning to purchase them, I couldn't believe how expensive they are. It made me think how much need there is out there, and also just how hard it is for some people to purchase toys for their children. We are going to be doing a grand opening of our new nurse practitioner's office on Friday. And also a reminder that November is Movember. There is a very engaged and enthusiastic group at our ops team that I was happy to sponsor. So please, if you can, contribute to our group in ops for their Movember event. And I just say watch your calendar at innisfil.ca for events happening around town. There's just so much with all of the pop-up markets and holiday shopping and tree lightings and everything. So tis the season, and we want to make sure everybody gets out and enjoys themselves. So is all the announcements we have, and we'll go then to the confirming bylaw and adjournment at 9:02 p.m., moved by Councillor Richardson and seconded by Councillor Drodge. All those in favor? That is carried. And thank you for everybody who's still watching and those who have maintained and stayed for the evening. And have a good evening, and we'll see you. I believe there's a public meeting next week, and then council on the 27th.